Hey yo guys, so I recently went on a photo shoot. It was more like a motorcycle kind of theme shoot and I made a new friend, but I'm editing the photos right now and I was kind of thinking it'd be interesting to kind of walk you guys through the process of removing distractions and things that are annoying or kind of take away from the main subject in the background. This applies to pretty much all genres of photography, whether it be portraits, you have someone in the background or something like that, landscape, architecture, sports, whatever it is, it applies to everything. But this is more so geared towards what I would do for something that's like more automotive related, so cars, motorcycles, whatever. And I'll just walk you through my general workflow process when I'm editing photos like these. So let's get started. Hey, so yeah, we're in Lightroom now. As you can see, photos me. Already chucked a preset on there. Fine tuned it a little bit. So usually what would happen is you get your presets or edited, general color grading, everything like that. And once you're kind of happy with the overall colors, white balance, exposure, and everything like that, now you start to use your filters. So first thing I would do is I would open up your graduated filter. Pretty standard. Most people who are, like somewhat good or done some research on, editing automotive photography know about this tip. It's just get your graduated filter, drag it up. You can press O on your keyboard to kind of show what area it's affecting, and just kind of drag down the exposure and bump up the clarity a little bit. And as you can see, it really helps kind of like bring the focus towards the center of the photo. Something I like to do as well is in the graduated filter panel, you just open up brush and you can press Alt on your keyboard, and then you can kind of just brush away the areas that you don't want it to affect. So I like to just brush. You don't have to be too perfect with this, precise with this. It helps if you feather your brush a little bit to get it look more natural. But this is just for Instagram and stuff like that, so I'm not too bothered by that. Just quickly over that, gonna fill it in here to make sure everything's good. Yeah, just get my foot underneath the bike there. Yeah, just gonna clean up the wheel a little bit. Zoom in a bit more. All right, awesome. Yeah. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. That's the first change. This is all obviously personal preference, but I just like to, darken the exposure. So now we got this nice kind of like. Usually, you want the brightest part of your image to be the subject, obviously. Alright, so now once the graduated filter is done, all we're going to do is open up you can do this two ways. Either you can use a radial filter or a adjustment brush. I tend to prefer the adjustment brush, but I feel like depending on the scenario, sometimes the radial filter makes it look more natural. So for example, what I would do next is a radial filter over the subject. You're going to invert the mask, and then you're just going to kind of play around and get it so that it looks, or it's covering most of the subject. And then now you can just play around with it, bump up the exposure, increase the sharpness, clarity, mess around with that. The only problem I have with this is sometimes you can see in the area around it, it brightens up the area as well. So I'm just gonna do this to the extreme, but you can see that not everything, it modifies more than just the subject. It also does the area around the subject. So for that reason, I prefer to use just adjustment brush. So all we're gonna do is get your adjustment brush and simply just paint over. I find the easiest way to see what I'm painting over is to just bring down the exposure all the way and then just paint like this the areas you want. Okay, so this is a bit of a botched job, sorry, but I'm just trying to do this a bit fast, and as you can see, I can really bump up the exposure, and it doesn't look too noticeable in the background. I might have to clean this area up a little bit. You know, if you're editing like a couple hundred photos, I would definitely say, you know, the radial filter is the way to go, simply because it's gonna save you a ton more time. So, you know, in scenarios like that, I would definitely say like just use the radial filter. It's not worth the time and effort, because you can get pretty decent results just using the radial filter and being quick about it, you know. But if you were trying to get, you know, if you're editing like 10 or 15 photos, I think it's definitely worth it. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Clarity up a little bit. I'm pretty happy with that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new adjustment brush and kind of just paint it over the top of my head, because I feel like it's a little bit too dark. Yeah, that's good. And I'm just going to bump the exposure again. There we go. It looks kind of natural. And awesome. All right. Now, so we finished editing the photo now, and you know, we've made our filter adjustments and stuff like that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take it into Photoshop. You can either export it and then edit in Photoshop, but I think it's nice to just be able to right click the photo you want to edit, go to edit in and click Photoshop. Waiting for Photoshop to be like, alright, so we're in Photoshop now. The first thing I always do is duplicate my layer or background layer. So I'm just gonna hit Control J or right click and duplicate the layer you want to duplicate. And there's multiple methods to removing distractions and just kind of removing stuff in Photoshop, but I think that the one of the easiest ways is with a lasso tool, and you just kind of draw around what you want to remove. So let's remove this thing. And then you're going to hit Shift and Delete, and make sure Content Aware Fill is selected, Color Adaptation, and then click OK. Oh wait, that's not, whoops, wrong layer. As you can see, it's removed it, and it's done a pretty good job. But so the next thing we want to do, or the next method, sorry, is using the clone stamp tool. You can also use the spot healing brush tool, but the only thing I don't like about the spot healing brush tool is it kind of smudges your images. So for example, let's do this here. So I'm gonna hit J, and I'm just gonna paint over this, and it kind of makes it a little bit smudgy. I don't like it as much as I do like clone stamp tool. I just think it's my personal preference. You can use either, but I feel like I have more control over the clone stamp tool, and I know exactly what it's gonna do. So you can see that it didn't do a perfect job, so we're just gonna hit Alt and sample a piece of the pixels over here, and just kind of slowly paint over it, and yeah, now it's gone. All right, so yeah, we can see that it's done a before and after. I'm just gonna quickly remove all this kind of debris and leaves and sticks on in the foreground, and after we're done that, we're gonna focus on moving stuff on the background. Alright, so yeah, I've removed pretty much everything in the foreground. I'm pretty happy with the results. As you can see, like, you know, you might think all these small things, they don't make such a huge impact or something like that, but you know, imagine if this was like a commercial or something like that, or like a paid shoot, you know, and this is, you're shooting something that's going to be on like the front cover of something, or on a billboard or something like that, you know. It's like all these little things you can see that added up, it really does make a bit of a difference, you know. And if it is noticeable, then I'd say it's definitely worth doing. So now that we've kind of removed stuff in the foreground, small little things like that, I think we're gonna tackle on stuff in the background, like these orange pylons or whatever they call those. I think that's a little bit distracting, especially this big yellow sign, but we're gonna tackle this first. So I'm gonna open up, oh, I will try with the lasso tool, because this kind of background is blurry and out of focus, obviously, because I think the shot was like f2.8, right? it's not super important to get it perfect, because as you can see, it's already lacking detail because of the fact that it's out of focus. So you know, stuff like the spot sorry, what was it, the spot healing brush tool or patch tool or a content aware fill is actually not a bad way to do things. So I'm just gonna brush around here, content aware fill, and as we can see, yeah, I did a pretty good job. I mean, yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. I'm happy with that. I think it looks pretty good. Can't really tell that it looks unnatural. Maybe this pole here as well. Let's see if we can get this to look nice as well. Yeah, doesn't look bad. I think I'm happy with that. You just got to be careful when you get to stuff like this, as I will show you why we need to learn how to actually clone stamp. If I draw around this sign right here, you can see that it's messed it up a little bit here. I think it's done a pretty good job of the background, but you just got to be careful. Let's go back, and in scenarios like this, what I would recommend doing is we just need to touch up this little area here. So what we're gonna do is, if my pen tool is gonna work, draw a mask around your subject with the pen tool. So you press P, and then you just set your points, click and drag to curve the lines, and once you're happy with it, just make a little selection around it. Right click, make selection. We're gonna set it to around, well, I mean, you have to keep in mind, if you're editing this as a JPEG after you've already exported it, you got to keep in mind what resolution you resized it to. I usually resize my stuff to like 3200 on the long edge. So I usually set my feather to around 2 or 3 pixels. You know, if you're editing on a much larger, for example, like a 50 megapixel photo, 40 megapixel photo, you might want to bump that up to maybe like 8 or 9 pixels. But I'm just gonna set that to 2 because I'm pretty happy with that. And just gonna wait for this, and next thing we're gonna do is get our clone stamp tool, if I can find it, and just gonna click and kind of just paint it out. Hopefully after we're done it will look completely fine and natural. There we go, perfect. I think that looks pretty good. I think this spot here is a bit too dark, so we are just gonna sample something over here and just kind of plump that in there, and you know, just a few little dabs here and there to make it look like it's a little bit less uniform and just one solid color. And as you can see, I think it looks pretty good. Done a pretty good job. Not too happy with this here. Now what we can do is we can apply a mask and then get our brush tool, hitting B, and make sure that black is selected, and then we can kind of just brush over here, and you can see that it's gonna reveal the layer below, and so we can kind of like undo our changes. And as you can see, for example, we have this little area here. I think it looks a little bit, I think we've overdone it, so I'm just gonna get the black brush and kind of paint in the area back that I want, and then now I'm just gonna swap over to the white and slowly and carefully paint away the road signs that we removed to make it look a little bit more uniform and natural. As you can see, there we go. That's awesome, perfect. And I think that's actually it. I can't see anything in the background. If I really wanted to, I could probably remove this thing here, but I can't be bothered to do that. But yeah, I think that's about it. If you guys want any more tutorials like this or anything like that, any more tips and tricks, feel free to comment down below or message me on my Instagram or YouTube, anywhere. My socials are down below. Yeah, and I'll definitely be more than happy to help you out. And if you liked it, please like, subscribe, and enjoy. Thank you. Bye.